Yeah. FM music. I'm not in the mood. Real quick one today. I've been kind of torturing myself on Twitter since the game ended. After torturing myself in real life watching it, but I do want to share a few thoughts on the Wisconsin Iowa football match that just ended. A very disappointing 15-6 Wisconsin loss. Although I would hardly say it was totally unpredictable. I do know, even in my own column for Bucky's fifth quarter, I did see a scenario where Iowa's defense would be too much for this offense in less than ideal conditions with heavy winds and a wet ball. Didn't see it going quite the way it did. Missed opportunities, a couple big turnovers for the Badgers. Starting quarterback getting hurt. None of those things helped in a 9-point loss. And it's impossible to say that if one or two of them going a different way might have flipped the script a little bit, but there's nothing to be gained for doing that. It is what it is. As I noted, hats off to the Hawkeyes. I mean, that's not a great Hawkeye team. Certainly not one of their better ones. You know, Deacon Hill went out and did his best, and his statistics were pretty much what I thought. What I did not expect was I was gashing the Badgers defense like an iceberg to the Titanic. That was unexpected, but the game plan was sound. Kirk Ferentz. I'm going to hesitate to compliment Brian Ferentz, but I will say this collectively: the Iowa Hawkeye coaches brought a winning game plan, and some things fell into place for them, and it worked out. So you got to give them props when you can. By the same token, there were some things that the Badger game plan had right, and some things it definitely did not. Going for it on fourth down, the goal line, where I can understand where that might. I can understand what they were thinking. It's hard to get down to the 1 yard line against Iowa, so you want to get that touchdown there. And if they would have, they might have won the game. I mean, it's as simple as that. But obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, 3 points would have been awesome at that moment. Anyway, tough loss, and hoping the best for Tanner and his shoulder. That was obviously a devastating thing to see. Locke came in with very little prep and I think acquitted himself well in many areas. That cannot be an easy thing for a young guy to come in and do against one of the best defenses in the country. But I just kind of felt from the beginning that the Badgers didn't quite have it today. I know that's kind of a broad statement, but I'm not sure we quite matched the Hawkeyes' intensity on the field, and the play calling both on offense and defense was a little bit of a head scratcher periodically. But again, as I noted on Twitter, I think what all this is showing us, although any game against the Hawkeyes in bad conditions can be considered an outlier of sorts, because we're unlikely to face a defense like that again. It is suggestive that some of the optimistic forecasts for this Badger team were just simply not gonna come to fruition this year, and that's just the way it is. Whether or not Mordecai's healthy or not, and that's okay. I mean, obviously we want the best for this team, and a lot of great kids, a lot of talented kids on this team. But it is where we are now. So, can the Wisconsin Badgers win the Big Ten West? Yes, they can still win the Big Ten West. I'm not going to be throwing a bunch of money in Vegas on it, but they can. That's the reality of it. They can do it. They're going to have to get some things right going forward, but I do think that it's going to depend on a lot of factors, including Mordecai's health or lack thereof. But they can do it. So all is not lost, but the larger moment and the larger story from this is a rebuild. Despite the cushy schedule, relatively speaking, 2023 has been a soft rebuild, maybe a little harder than I thought it was for this Badger team. And Luke Fickell will and deserves the opportunity to, of course he'll get it, get his guys in to do his system. That's just a fact. So as many good kids as there are, and there are dedicated, talented Wisconsin Badgers that were on this team, but long before Luke Fickell came on. There's some great kids and some talented kids that are a huge part of what's happening going forward. I think it is going to take a little more time than we thought to get this team where it needs to be from a talent perspective and from a scheme perspective. And that's not to excuse the coaching staff. There's certainly some things I would have done differently, especially on the defensive side of the ball and certain points today with that run defense. But I'm not the coach anymore. Can't help it. I would have had some choice words for that team at halftime and certainly after the game. But as broken and dispirited as they are, I have no doubt that they will have a really tough, tight week of practice and go in there and show out against Brett Bielema in Champaign next week. As I said again on Twitter, that is going to be the biggest game of their season. I know it's Ohio State's the next week. I understand that, but picking up the pieces from what just happened and getting down there and beating a team you are better than, and I want to be very clear, they are better than Illinois. Going down there and taking care of that shamble of a team in a tough environment against a former coach, that's going to be a huge gut check for this Badger team. But anyway, I thanks for listening. I'm going to cut this one real short. You guys had enough suffering today. But thanks for tuning in. And if you want a wonderful balm to today's disappointment, go to my Twitter page. Check out the pinned tweet. It's a real good, fun, upbeat podcast with a couple great Badger volleyballers, Cece Crawford and Devin Robinson. It's worth the time. And it's a bit of a palate cleanser for the #1 Wisconsin Badger women's volleyball team. And anyway, try to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And on Wisconsin.